Hello and good day to you all, my name is Vinny and today we're concluding our series on the top meta picks of 7.27D. This time, it's about the mids. With some luck, we should need to update this video soon. I think we're all more than ready for the patch, but as it stands, we might have all of November left for 7.27D. So in the meantime, let's study up and talk about the mids that the pros are dominating with so that you too can win more. And that's exactly what we're gonna do after we get to the question of the day. What Dire Tide set do you want the most? I like the Snapfire one, that one's crazy cool. Or the Shaman where he uses his tongue as a shackle. Or the Juggernaut one, that just looks like a Arcana. It just looks like a straight up Arcana that you can get for free. There's actually just too many good sets, so let me know which one you want the most in the comments. Somehow we have not talked about this guy in depth yet. Who is it? It's Inai, the Void Spirit. He has been on the top of the mid meta ever since release. The only time that was not true was maybe for like a week after the initial release where him and Snapfire were maybe a little weak and then they both got insanely overbuffed. He's only been outshadowed by some insanely broken heroes like pre-nerf Doom, but all those game-breaking mids have been toned down a lot. But meanwhile, Void has dodged any serious nerfs, which makes sense considering he also dodges all of your spells and seems to almost never die. Void Spirit has a lot going on for him. He's active, escapable, he's got utility, and he even has carry potential. The only weakness of the hero is that he has some difficulty recovering in a terrible game, and the fact that he's melee while having more bad lane matchups than most of the popular mids. Over the past months, there's been a renaissance in the skill builds for Void Spirit. Shortly after release, everyone settled on like a 204 build, sometimes even delaying to simulate until level 11. Now some pros are maxing to simulate first, and everyone is taking it by level 4 at the latest. So you might be seeing 114, which is the most common skill build, or even 142 for that max to simulate. That nuke is massive and it one-shots a range creep from full. The primary weakness of Void Spirit is sometimes failing to farm safely in the mid lane, and to simulate, if you max that ability, it solves that issue. This is because it's providing you with that amazing wave pushing and the ability to secure any amount of creeps. Resonant Pulse is fine at this too, but having both combined is even better, and Resonant Pulse just doesn't deal quite as much damage. You love runes and you always buy bottles, so having the ability to clear faster is a must. To think that some people max Q first in the past really kind of showed how bad our early understanding of this hero was. You should practically never take multiple points in Q. It just scales terribly. You get 0.2 seconds of stun and 50 damage for a level. I mean, I don't care. Do you care? I don't really care. 1 point in it is enough to hit your simulate anyway if you're just fast. In lane, you never want to use Q unless your other spells are on cooldown, or if you think it'll lead to a kill. It's not guaranteed to land, and you would much rather use your mana on your wave clearing spells. Still gonna want a value point in that Aether Remnant though. You can pull off some great outplays with it if the enemy tries to deny you under tower. You can pull them back into your own, maybe get a surprise kill. But even more varied than the skill build for Void Spirit is his item builds. I'm going to highlight 3 of the most common paths. You got the spell build, the right click build, and the mix build. For the spell build, the path is simple. Rarely you would ever change this. Boots of your choice, phase, treads, or travels, Yules, Aghanims, BKB, Octarine, and then something like a Shiva's or a Scythe. For the right click build, I'm going to share it with you Thompson's build. He most commonly goes phase boots, Echo Saber, Desolator, BKB, and Daedalus or MKB into Satanic. Echo Saber deserves a lot more buys on Void Spirit. It gives you mana, which the right click build is otherwise not getting from Yules or the talent. The double hit is good because otherwise we have no attack speed items, and the Echo Slow is actually extremely relevant. It's just long enough to make hitting Aether Remnant a lot easier. For the mix build, we're going to go Boost of Choice, first item Orchid or Spirit Vessel, then we're going to go for the one that we skipped, Yules, BKB, and a big damage item or Octarine. This build is more for pickoffs or games where Orchid or Vessel are a great pickup, such as versus Lifestealer. Naturally, we can compare Void Spirit to his brother Ember Spirit. Void Spirit trades map-wide mobility and magic resistance in favor of much higher single target damage. And even with the Ags, Void can do as much AoE damage as Ember as well. You're going to want to delay your talents until you're forced to take them. Once you do, you want damage, pulse damage, step cooldown, and the dissimulate stun. Except if you're playing physical build, then you're going to want the step damage at 25. We did put Lena on our underrated heroes list, and as you know, heat rises, so Lena is now the 11th most popular hero in pro pubs, and she has a distinct advantage of having virtually no bad lane matchups. At most you have 3 bad matchups, Sniper, Tinker, and Visage, and those heroes practically don't exist right now. And if you're some sort of hero spammer, you can even first pick Lena. The enemy team is going to think that you're supporting, but no, you're playing mid lane, and even if they somehow guess that you're mid, what are they going to really counterpick you with? maybe Sniper, but you can always just buy Shadow Blade and try to pick them off later. For the skill build with Lena, it's simple, 4-1-1. Maxing either option second is viable. I prefer maxing the stun, but there's a pretty even split between the passive and the stun maxing second. As for the build, it's going to be 2 nulls. You're going to need 2 nulls in order to combo down a wave with just LSA plus Dragon Slave. Then you're going to get a bottle. You're going to get Boosts of Travel. Boosts of Travel very common on Lena because with those alone, you can hit the move speed cap with your passive. And also she loves to split push. She loves to solo kill, so you can show up and surprise people in any lane. You're gonna pretty much always want to go right-click Lena. Pure magic build is an option, but I would only even consider that if you have a right-clicker in the off lane and safe lane, like, I don't know, Weaver off lane plus PA in the safe lane. It's just kind of a waste of the passive. But if you do want to go pure magic build, you would go Yules, Aether, Ags, Lincolns, Shivas, and Octarine. But what we really want to do is the right-click build. And for that, we do still start with Yules sometimes, but usually it's more Yules or Shadow Blade. Shadow Blade is preferable if you have no sources of invis on your team already, and for killing heroes like enemy anti-mages or heroes that go invisible like Rikimaru and Clinks, because the Yules is going to give them time to get off their invisibility, or in the case of anti-mage, his spell shield. After that, we're going to go MKB, BKB, Scotty, and Assault Cuirass. Other options are Hurricane Pike, Satanic, and Lincolns. Her weaknesses are the fact that she relies heavily on skill shots and gap closers. Other than that though, you should have a fine time. You have an insane attack range for the lane. The animation is pretty bad though, it is pretty slow. So make sure you're primarily relying on your spells to get multiple last hits at once. And get that stun level 1. Using the stun level 1 barely gives up any damage compared to Dragon Slave, and you can do things like stun the enemy in order to prevent them from denying your range creep, or stun them and deny your own range creep. Over here, at number 3, Zip Zap, it is Storm Spirit. I cannot remember a game where Storm does not have insane impact. Gap closers are so valuable at forcing fights and getting on top of problem heroes such as Lena, who we just talked about. All the spirits are great gap closers, but the thing about Storm is it just never ends. This guy can initiate or follow up from anywhere so long as you have enough mana. Skill build is 1-1-1 in lane, into 1-1-4 if you want to be very active and harass in lane, or more like 3-1-2 if your main goal is farming. This hero suffers from counterpicks like Anti-Mage more than any of the other top mids, but it still feels like this hero wins a lot of lanes that he shouldn't. At this point, I just see Storm and I assume he'll win lane even against something like Queen of Pain. If you look at Dota 2 Pro Tracker, you're gonna see at least a 60% win rate from recent pubs with pros. This hero has silently been getting buffs to his abilities and items. For item build, I beg you, please find any excuse not to go Yules. Living on Storm is secondary to killing and causing fear on the map. The move speed is really low value and the mana regen isn't that good when you consider that the active costs a lot of mana. The build is almost always your small items, Bottle, Orchid, or Kaya into Bloodstone, then Lincolns, BKB, Scythe, Shivas, or Ags. Orchid is just so strong and cheap right now, having it by 12 minutes on Storm is doable, and nobody's going to have any item answers to it for quite some time. This is why I prefer Orchid Rush, but Kaya First is a bit better for farming. Make sure that you're zipping early and often in the fights. If you're the first one in, you should be zipping immediately after attacking. Don't give the enemy any time to lock you down. Ideally, we want to be the second one in after the enemies show. This way we can target down the enemy hero with disables and land a longer distance ball lightning. Make sure you hit once between every spell to get off your overload hits. When going for early plays before Orchid, you'll zip onto an enemy, hit, and then when they decide to face you and they think they're going to cast a spell on you, zip directly behind them. Abuse that turn rate, that is what all the best Storms do. If you have a Storm on your team, make sure you're stacking a lot for him. He consumes a lot of space in the early game, but after, once he has Orchid, he's going to give you that space right back. Lastly, we have Magnus. Magnus was nerfed. Surely he's not OP anymore, right? No, obviously not. Magnus is still super OP. Magnus is even being seen as all 5 roles, but primarily as position 5, offlane, and mid. Magnus is strong in vacuum, sure, but I really think what got the hero over the edge is the direction that the games have gone with the recent patches. There's a very high number of creeps on the map, stacking is of the utmost priority, there's tons of melee hard carries running around that just love and power, and there's a longer game length. A need for hard stun and gap close is also so good right now against all these annoying spirits. Magnus mid is down to a science at this point. 1 for 1 in skill build, maxing Shockwave second, 1 or 2 bracers, treads, bottle is optional, Echo Saber, Blink Dagger, BKB, Daedalus, AC, Silver Edge, or whatever item you think you need at that point. Just like Void Spirit, we have a hard carry who should be bad at laning, but when we push out the wave with Empower and then jungle, I mean, how are they going to stop us? It doesn't matter how bad your matchup is if you're just farming the jungle on cooldown. Even if you completely fail at your lane and have the worst game of your life, you're still a huge part of your victory as Mag. Empowering is just too good. Simply make it your life's goal to empower your carry and you're going to have impact no matter how bad your individual game is. As for in the lane, Mag is tanky and he can even steal some cheesy kills in mid if your opponent gets overconfident trading. What you're going to do is shockwave them and take some steps toward them as soon as you shockwave, then just quickly skewer back under your tower. In the early game, do not be greedy with your RP, especially as the mid laner. Our damage and tankiness is usually needed earlier rather than later in the fight because you have such high net worth. If you wait until your team is dead and dying, then it doesn't really matter how many people you RP when there's no follow-up available. When you do hit that initiating RP with Blink, communicate if you're skewering or not. A lot of great RPs are ruined by bad skewers that your team was not prepared for. The best mags typically use a max range skewer only as RP stun is ending. The travel time of skewer is essentially just more stun duration. Just like Lena, you can pick this hero whenever, and we're seeing pros abuse the early mag pick in order to mess with the enemy's draft. That's all we have for you today, folks. We appreciate your time and attention. What did you think of these 4 heroes? Of course, we didn't have time for every good mid hero, so if there's someone we missed, let us know. Like, subscribe, and follow for more ProGuides content. Goodbye, and have yourself a great day. I'll see you soon.